I'm about to read you a chapter from one of my books called Antivirus for the Mind. This is a bonus chapter at the end of the book. It's called Persistence and Determination Are Omnipotent. When you run into obstacles on the way to an important goal and you feel your motivation starting to fade, or if people have been telling you you're foolish to keep trying, I urge you to watch the movie Lorenzo's Oil. It's a true story of a husband and wife, Augusto and Michela Odone, and their 5-year-old boy, Lorenzo. They were a happy family who moved to the U.S. after living for a while on the Comoros Islands, an archipelago of volcanic islands off the southeast coast of Africa. Lorenzo began having some behavioral problems, so they took him to one doctor after another trying to get a diagnosis. Nobody seemed to know what was wrong with him. Finally, they found a doctor who did the right kind of tests. The doctor sat the parents down in a quiet room and gravely told them the diagnosis. Your son has a fatal disease. He might live another 2 years, but during that time, the white matter of his brain will slowly liquefy and then he will die. There is no treatment for this disease. Nothing can be done about it. They were at the best facility they could find. The tests were thorough and extensive, and there was no mistake. Lorenzo had a disease called ALD. What would you do if you were given this diagnosis for your child? They were, of course, devastated by the news. No matter how well schooled you are in the antivirus for your mind, news like that will knock you down, at least at first. Very little was known about ALD at the time, but Augusto, Lorenzo's father, started reading about it. He found the progression of the disease unthinkably horrible. Kids go blind and deaf, become autistic, lose their ability to speak, become paraplegic, have seizures, and so on over a period of 2 years, and then they die, and nobody knew how to stop it. Augusto and Michela were plunged into a black despair that would be hard to imagine. When anyone hits a setback, demoralization is almost always the first response. The only question is, how quickly will you recover your fighting spirit? How soon, if ever, will you regain your determination? The answer depends entirely on how you explain the setback to yourself. If the Odones accepted the doctor's certainty, they would have given up on their son. They would have felt helpless and depressed. But they decided there must be a way. In other words, the setback was, Lorenzo has ALD. The explanation the doctors gave was, it's a fatal disease without a cure, it is permanent and unchangeable, and we are certain about this. That's a demoralizing assertion, and it makes at least 4 thought mistakes: overcertainty, negative guessing, self-defeating conclusions, and false hopelessness. I talk about those in the book. Many people felt sorry for the Odones because the couple were obviously living on, quote, false hope, unquote. But if you look at the doctor's conclusion, there is no cure for ALD, you can easily see it was a premature conclusion. It was not a certainty that a cure was impossible. It was unnecessarily demoralizing to say it with any certainty. The Odones' explanation of the setback was not demoralizing. They believed the cure had not been found yet, and they decided to see if they could help find the cure. Their explanation was the opposite of demoralizing. It was intensely motivating. Even if they wanted to do something about it, many people wouldn't try because of another set of demoralizing beliefs. Who am I to think I could help? I'm an ordinary person. How could I find a cure if all these doctors and researchers haven't found one? But the Odones thought differently. Augusto said to Michela, "What did we do when we first arrived in Comoros? We read about it. We read about their culture, their history, their laws. That's what we need to do now. We don't know enough about this disease." So they went to libraries and started reading as if their son's life depended on it. They stayed up late and got up early. They read books on biochemistry, biology, neurology. They read microfiche, pursued references, talked to researchers, and followed every clue they could find. They shared with each other what they were learning and what ideas they came up with. They argued with each other, and they kept trying. Why did they keep trying? This is the crucial question. They kept trying and stayed motivated because the way they explained their setback to themselves set them on fire with determination and commitment. Please remember that. When you feel demoralized by a setback, look at your explanations. Use the antivirus for your mind to protect and preserve and even enhance your feelings of motivation. They discovered several researchers in different places working on the disease, but working in isolation from each other. The Odones thought they might speed up the process of discovery by funding a symposium, so they did. They got all the experts together in one room to discuss ALD. They thought maybe pooling their insights would help them find a new approach. The Odones were trying to find a way, and they were urgent because the clock was ticking. Every day their son was losing more myelin, the protective sheath that covers the neurons in his brain. Lorenzo was going blind, couldn't speak, and was no longer able to feed himself. At the symposium, in a conversation between scientists who each brought different pieces of the puzzle to the table, they concluded a particular oil might help. The Odones tracked down a manufacturer who could make it and tried it on their boy. Their goal was to keep his level of long-chain fatty acids low. Those were the acids destroying the myelin. The oil helped some, but not enough. They did more reading and found another line of possibility. They needed another oil extraction of a different kind, but it couldn't be made legally in the US, so they found a chemist in England who could do it. And the combination of the two oils achieved the goal. The level of fatty acids in Lorenzo's blood became normal. The oil is now used as a treatment for boys with ALD. Girls don't get the disease. And if it's started early enough, it can stop the disease completely in many of them, allowing them to lead normal lives. Lorenzo, however, did not return to normal. He had lost too much myelin. But he recovered some of his functions, including his eyesight, and is now over 30 years old. Have the Odones given up? Of course not. They started the Myelin Project, aimed at finding a way to remyelinate neurons. It has already been successfully done in dogs. The movie is one of the most inspiring stories I've ever seen. If you would like to see a demonstration of determination in action, if you would like to see a real-life example of the power of persistence, if you would like to put the difficulty of your own goals into perspective, watch Lorenzo's Oil. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb.